What could be more relaxing than walking along a hydrangea trail? The amazing colors, the amazing flower forms. We are not only going to see native hydrangeas, we're also going to view some Asian and some European ones as well. We're at Bennett Nurseries today, and George is going to tell us all about hydrangeas. George, tell me about this one. It reminds me of my favorite faded pear blue jeans.
Oh, well, it's because of the light blue in the middle, I guess. This is a hydrangea that is called a lace cap. And the reason it's called lace cap is because the blooms are of two different kinds, and it looks like the little cap that you would knit to pull over a baby's head. It has the ray flowers, that's these large flowers out on the edges, and the tiny flowers on the inside. They are blue in this case, and this is white. I've had it planted here for probably 10 years, but it's had competition from these trees right here, which might have limited the size of it somewhat.
And what was this called?
This one is called Veitchii. The botanical name has a double I on the end of it, but it's named after a family named Veitch, V-I-E-T-C-H, I think.
George, tell me how you got this one to be 3 colors, or even more than 3 colors.
You can influence the color of a hydrangea bloom, and we were trying to get it to be blue. So back in the spring, when the buds were forming inside the stems, that is the month of March and April, we added an acidifier to the soil. We put aluminum sulfate in a bucket of water, and we watered with it. And we do that about once every week or two during those months. And when those buds are forming, before you ever see them, you can change the color. If you make it acid, you get blue like this right here. And the fact that it's pink and lavender and blue now just means we didn't add enough of the acidifier. We wanted it to be altogether blue.
And the variety of this particular one?
That particular one is Endless Summer.
And I love the companion planting here with this hosta. What kind of hosta is this? What's its name?
This hosta is called Big Daddy, and it has great big leaves. I hope that you can see how these things do. It rained here yesterday, and the leaf is still a little bit wet, but notice how there's a channel right through here that runs down the stem of the plant and all the way to the bottom. When rain hits the leaf, it goes down the shoot just like it's being delivered to the middle of the plant.
George, tell me about this hydrangea.
This is Oakleaf Hydrangea. Oakleaf Hydrangea because of this leaf right here that looks like an oak leaf. This is the native wildflower of Alabama. It's supposed to grow in all 60-something counties. So it grows in a lot of different types of soil.
And it grows real well in Tennessee also, I know that.
That's right.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of different cultivars. In nature, there's probably no two of them alike because they cross with each other in the woods, and the seeds come up as different kinds of Oakleaf Hydrangea. This one is a chance seedling called Snowflake. Snowflake has a very elongated kind of bloom. These are just starting to bloom. They're not very big yet. It'll get about 6 inches longer and a lot fuller up here. It's a double floret. The little flowers that are in here are doubles, which is very unusual. Usually that's a single flower right there.
Now, do you recommend cutting this down in the fall?
Well, we've never cut these right
Obviously,
here because we just like to let them get large. And there's no requirement as far as the plant is concerned to cut it down.
How old is this particular plant?
There's actually 3 planted together here, and they've been there probably 15 years.
So it's not right next to the foundation kind of plant, is it?
Well, if you've got a big foundation or a tall spot,
you want to hide
yes,
your house,
you could.
yes.
That's right.
George, this is beautiful. What variety is this?
This is a variety called Penny Mac. Penny Mac is different than some of the hydrangeas in that all of them are the same in that they bloom in the spring on wood that formed the previous summer, which this one is doing now.
Hold on now, go back to that, because that's what's confusing for people. When time to prune, so it doesn't affect the flowers for the next year. So just go a little bit on that.
Okay, it's springtime, it's blooming. The only stems that are blooming are the ones that were formed the previous summer. In other words, what was new wood in the summertime is what carries the bloom bud through the winter, and it blooms in the spring. Most hydrangeas are that way. However, after this one blooms, it is what's called remontant. That means it'll rebloom in the summer on new growth. So this is just the first set of blooms you see this year. The others will come about July and maybe even some more in the fall.
Wow, a lot of bang for your buck on this one.
That's right.
And tell me about the companion plants that look so beautiful around this.
Up at the front, notice that there are some blue flowers down there. That's spiderwort. Spiderwort is a plant that grows naturally in the woods around here. Along with it, there's a big hosta with great big blue leaves.
Right.
That hosta is blue angel. It's not really blue, but it has a bluish cast to it. And we thought that those things would go together and make a nice presentation when we planted this.
Well, you thought right. It is beautiful. George, tell me about this hydrangea. It is beautiful. The white and the chartreuse, gorgeous.
Thank you. This is a native plant.
Okay.
You go out in the woods, you'll see this plant growing in the woods. This is Hydrangea arborescens. Arborescens means tree-like, but this particular hydrangea doesn't make a tree at all. It only gets about 5 feet tall, but very broad, like 6 or 8 feet wide.
So this would be a great screen for a flower screen.
Yes, it could be. It of course loses its leaves in the wintertime, but it does a good job at screening. You can grow this thing in sun or shade. Now, I gave you the botanical name, Hydrangea arborescens. It's commonly, this variety is called Annabelle, and it has very broad white blooms, like this one right here. This one, see, is compared to this one. This light green is a young bloom. It matures to white, like that right there. These blooms sometimes will be a foot across, and they last a long time, and
you were telling me that this one grows differently on the new growth?
Yes, as a matter of fact, it's different in that it blooms only on new growth. That's the tip ends of the branches. Each one of these is on a branch tip. That means that in the wintertime, you could, if you wanted to, cut it completely to the ground. Everything that comes up is new, and every stem will bloom.
George, this hydrangea is so prolific. Tell me about this lace cap.
This plant is called Mathilda Gutges, G-U-T-G-E-S, and it's one of the best ones for influencing to be one color or another. It happens to be a really good blue, or it could be a really good pink, but I like the fact that the blue, you can make it almost a deep sky blue with just a little aluminum sulfate on it. But better than that, it's a plant that has a stocky growth habit, grows broad but not too tall. The flowers are all in a plane like this, just like they're reaching out for sunlight. The one right next to it that's not blooming, that's a different type of hydrangea. If you come back in the summer, you'll see it blooming. That one's called Pinky Winky, and it gets 8 feet tall, big white blooms that slowly turn to a coral color during the summertime, and the blooms stay on there until fall.
I'm intrigued by this beautiful pink.
It is a mop head type, rounded head. It's pink, but it could have been blue.
And what is this beautiful lace cap here?
This lace cap is called Jade Tiara, and we've done just the opposite with it. We've acidified the soil with aluminum sulfate so that the ray flowers would be blue. The ray flowers are the ones around the edge.
Wow, George. You've shown us some beautiful hydrangeas, and I've got my list in my back pocket of what I want to try to grow. Thank you so much for sharing the trail with us, and thanks once again for sharing Bennett Nurseries with us.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for coming.
Thanks.